Hi YouTube friends, so I'm so excited. Today we are going to be talking about herbal antivirals. These are herbs that have different chemicals in them that help to support our body if our body is dealing with some kind of a viral attack. And we're going to talk about some of the different kinds. I think you're going to really like this. I just did a video on herbal antibiotics, and I will link to that above, and I'll also link to that at the end for you as well. These are all herbs that if you use them in conjunction with each other, they can be really helpful in, first of all, helping to keep you well. And in addition to that, if you do happen to get sick, or if you are suffering from some kind of a virus, including herpes virus or HIV or HPV, or there's a lot of viruses out there, even bird flu. These can all be somewhat helpful depending on the virus and the herb that you choose. But in general, as they support the body, they're wonderful. So let's go ahead and dig in. We're going to get started. I suppose I should introduce myself. My name is Heidi Villegas with Healing Harvest Homestead and the School of Botanical Arts and Sciences, and I am a holistic herbalist and aromatherapist. So therefore, you're going to see little bottles here and different herbs. I do work with both herbs and essential oils because I find that they really synergize each other beautifully, and I'm taking advantage of all of the chemicals in the plant this way too. So let's go ahead and get started. The first herb that we have going on here is oregano. Oregano is very high in a chemical called carvacrol. It's found in the essential oil. It's also found in the herbal preparations like tinctures and things like that. So oregano is wonderful. It's helpful in combating stomach flu, to an extent herpes simplex viruses or HSV. It's very helpful with rotavirus, which causes diarrhea in little ones, and even RSV. So you can see oregano, and there's many other viruses too that it helps with. Those are some of the main ones, and these have been clinically studied. So oregano, here I've got the tincture, and you can see how dark it gets. It's really lovely. And here is a little bottle of the essential oil. One thing I'll say about oregano is you can make a nice tea with just the herb and it works great. And then if you want to work with the essential oil, be sure that you dilute it and I would only use it topically. It's a very, very hot oil. So just going to put that out there. The tincture, you can just drop in some water and take, or you can, like I said, make an herbal tea. So that's oregano. That's herb number one. So antiviral herb number two. This is sage. So sage, here I've actually got three things here. I've got a sage plant. I'm actually down here in my office clinic. The lighting here is terrible. Otherwise, I would have plants for all of these. But I do keep sage in my office window, and I just love it. It makes me happy. But this is sage, and then I've got sage essential oil, and I have here sage tincture. I actually tinctured back in 2016, and it's still good. That's what I love about tinctures. They last forever. So anyway, sage contains a chemical called safacinolide and also sage-1. And sage is, first of all, very astringent. You're going to find that the astringent herbs, and I'll talk about that in a moment a little more with my honorable mentions over here, but astringents tend to dry out the system. So if you've got really wet, boggy conditions, astringents are just helpful anyway, on top of the antiviral properties. So sage is really helpful for the respiratory system. It's really helpful for cold and flu virus. It helps even animals with different animal respiratory issues. So I really love sage. I feel like sage is a wonderful herb, not only to use by itself, but also in conjunction with some of these other ones for cold and flu and different viruses. So that's a bit about sage. And I'm flying through these, or this is going to be a really long video, so I'm going to make this fast. Herb number three, we're going to move on to basil. So as you can see, a lot of these you can just grow right in your garden, right? Here I've got two different essential oils. I've got basil with a chemotype of linalool, and I've got holy basil, and I love basil anyway. I have lots of basil growing at home, but again, I don't have it here at in my downtown office shop, my little clinic. This is Tulsi tincture, and this is holy basil tincture, and you can also tincture the regular basil leaves too. So basil is, first of all, besides it being super tasty and smelling wonderful and really good for your brain and other things, it contains chemicals, apigenin and ursolic acid. So these two chemicals are what scientists have discovered go to work to help it be a wonderful antiviral herb. One of the things I really love, and this is more specific to holy basil, but holy basil actually increases immunity by enhancing the action of the T helper cells and the killer cells. I really love holy basil for that. Regular basil can also help with the herpes virus, with hepatitis B, and with the enterovirus, which is flu, basically. It's get the stomach viruses and things like that. But basil's wonderful. It's kind of got a little bit of a broader range, I think, than sage has in terms of viruses. But who knew, right? That lovely green leaf that you eat with your caprese salad is amazingly healthy for you and can actually strengthen your immune system when it comes to viruses. All right, next up is fennel. I don't have a fennel bulb here, but you can actually buy fennel right in the grocery store. This is fennel tincture. It's excellent for the digestive system, but it's also a wonderful antiviral. And here I've got the essential oil, and I'm just gonna give this a nice whiff. Ah, it smells so good. So fennel contains transanethol, and it's a wonderful chemical that supports your body in healing from different various flu viruses, the herpes virus, and it also supports the immune system and helps you recover a little faster while also helping your body deal with inflammatory responses. So whenever we get a bad cold or we're sick, our sinuses get inflamed and just, it doesn't feel good, but there seems to be a lot of swelling going on, especially in our heads, and if it's a stomach flu, it's in our stomach. So fennel or any of these the anti-inflammatories can really be helpful with that, and I've got a couple of others of those coming up too. All right, number 5 is garlic. And garlic also has essential oil, but I don't have any of that. These are bulbs. You can do all kinds of things with garlic. You can tincture it. You can drink it in a tea. It can be infused in honey. It can be infused in oil. But garlic has a really wide range of different antiviral properties and capabilities, and that's because of a special chemical it contains called allicin. It's not Allison like the woman's name, but allicin, ALLICIN. And I really, really love garlic. In fact, in my tribe, my Confident Herbalist Tribe membership, the garlic book is almost 80 pages long. It's massively huge. It could be a book published all by itself, out in the world somewhere. It's really well researched. But this is going to be a basic video, so I'm not going to go deeply into all of this. Garlic is very, very hot. If you do use it topically, it's always a good idea to make sure that you dilute it in some essential oil. If you're dealing with things like warts or conditions like that, you can use it right on the area, full strength, but just know that it might burn a little bit. So garlic has been pretty heavily clinically studied. It's excellent for supporting the body and helping with flu virus, with HPV, also topically, HIV, HSV, which is herpes simplex virus, viral pneumonia, and also different colds and flu viruses, rhinovirus, which is your common sinusitis. It's really terrible, and tuberculosis. So garlic, and probably there's many, many others I'm not even mentioning, but these have all been, garlic's been clinically studied to handle all of those kinds of things. So it's really wonderful. It also is helpful against thrush, different yeast infections, and it works as an expectorant too. So garlic is one of those herbs that honestly, you should just have garlic in your house at all times. You should have all these in your house at all times, but definitely garlic. All right, let's move on. Number 6 is lemon balm. So lemon balm, also known as Melissa, and I've got a ton of this growing in my garden. This is actually a fresh lemon balm tincture from last summer that I still have. I need to get that strained off. I will be making some more, but it's wonderful. And I love the essential oil. Melissa Essential, it's actually also called Melissa is the Latin name. So if you get it in essential oil form, you're going to want to look for Melissa because it's not known as lemon balm essential oil, although that's what it is. But lemon balm is amazing. To me, it's one of the best antivirals if you're dealing with any kind of herpes related virus, and that would include chicken pox, that would include shingles, that includes, in fact, I wrote an article on my website about a protocol for shingles, a whole full-on protocol, and lemon balm is a star in that article. Also, the regular genital herpes, as well as any herpes you get on your body, cold sores, things like that. So lemon balm is wonderful. I actually did a video last year about how to make little lemon balm essential oil capsules in oil. I did take that off because I had a person make a comment, and I thought, well, I think I'm just going to avoid any further comments on it. But that is what I actually personally take when I'm experiencing that little tingly feeling like you're getting ready to have a cold sore explosion, and it works. It totally reduces the time of the outbreak. It reduces the severity of the outbreak, and if I catch it early enough, sometimes I won't even get an outbreak. So I love lemon balm for any kind of herpes virus. Also really great for the enterovirus with children. That would be like stomach issues and things like that. It's wonderful. And it's a great herb for children. Very, very safe and gentle. It's helpful for HIV viruses, and it's helpful for the bird flu. Another thing about lemon balm essential oil and tincture and herbal tea is that it's so calming. It's very supportive of the nervous system. And when you're sick, you definitely want to be supporting the stress response in the nervous system, because when you're stressed out, your immune system is weaker. When you're not stressed out, your immune system has a much better chance to work. Next up is peppermint. I believe this is number 7. So unless I missed one along the way, but I've got peppermint leaf right here, and I've got peppermint tincture right here. I love peppermint tincture. It's basically peppermint extract, kind of like you'd buy in the grocery store. I love combining it with other tinctures when I do blends, because number one, it tastes good, but it's got some really nice medicinal capabilities, among them being an antiviral. And here I've got the peppermint essential oil, and I'm just going to smell this too. All right, let's talk about why peppermint works as an antiviral. So peppermint contains menthol and rosmarinic acid in high amounts, and those two chemicals are really wonderful for supporting the respiratory system. It's helpful against RSV, and it's helpful against inflammation in general. So peppermint is absolutely wonderful for the system. I kind of like it as a supportive antiviral herb, and not maybe one of the main ones for a lot of things, but if you've got a child or a person with RSV, consider some peppermint tea. The essential oil, by the way, should not be used with children under 10 near their faces. And that's because of the high level of menthol, and it can potentially cause some breathing issues for some people. So that's just a little bit about peppermint essential oil, but peppermint in general is wonderful. At the end of this video, I will go ahead and go into some different herbal preparations you might want to consider for these different herbs too. All right, next up, this is number 8. And that would be rosemary. Woohoo! I love rosemary, and it is high in a chemical called oleanic acid. So here I've got a little rosemary plant. I'm rooting it. That's why it's in a little jar. I have a little cute little decoration in my part of my office that's filled with these herbs that are rooting. So rosemary is one of these. I do have the rosemary essential oil. Obviously, you can get rosemary herb. You can use it fresh. You can use it dried. It's wonderful. And I just want to talk about the chemotypes really fast. This is rosemary chemotype camphor, which tells me yummy. As an aromatherapist, it's going to be very high in a chemical called camphor, and that really is helpful for the respiratory system. It also is one that young children under 10 shouldn't be using. And then there's just regular rosemary, and rosemary chemotype cineol which is generally what regular rosemary is, also needs to be used with care with children. But the herb is absolutely fine. So you can use the herb all day long in all different kinds of preparations, people of all ages. So rosemary's great. There is one contraindication with rosemary. Some people think it might raise the blood pressure of some people. I have had one person in all the years I've been practicing tell me that rosemary does affect them this way, and most people don't have a problem with it. So if you've got high blood pressure, you might want to speak with a medical doctor, or just be aware of that and be paying attention to how you're feeling. But rosemary is wonderful, especially in food amounts, which is generally what we do with it. Rosemary is helpful against HIV virus, herpes virus, hepatitis A, and general flu viruses. So rosemary, and actually I'm going to just throw cold and flu in there too. And that's just because it's so wonderful as a helper for the respiratory system. Rosemary is really helpful as well. Not only does it support the immune system and help protect against the viruses, but it also just opens your air passages, your respiratory system, upper and lower, especially for adults. Now, I want to just dive into the preparations. We'll do that at the end though. All right, next up we've got Echinacea. Some of these herbs I'm talking about as antivirals were also in my antibiotic video too. You might notice that Echinacea is showing up a couple of times. In the antibiotic video, I actually had one of my flowers from my garden that I brought down to the office, and I took that flower and I put it in some alcohol and I'm tincturing it, and boy, look how beautiful and dark that is. That's only been about a week ago, so it's already doing wonderfully well. So this is a tincture. This is actually another tincture, and I wanted to show you this because can you see that layer of white right there? That's a chemical called inulin. It's really a nice probiotic. It feeds the or prebiotic, but it feeds the good bacteria in your gut. So not only is Echinacea an antiviral, but it has a number of other properties that are so helpful. And when we have a healthy microbiome or a healthy gut, that actually supports our immune system too. Echinacea is really wonderful to take if you feel a cold or a flu coming on or some kind of a sickness. What it does is it actually helps protect your cells from the virus cells entering them, okay? So it just kind of keeps them out, and that's wonderful. So that allows your body and your immune system to go to work and start getting rid of those virus cells before they actually enter a host cell. So I really love Echinacea for that. If you've been exposed to a person with a cold or flu virus and you're kind of concerned that maybe you'll be getting it too, like if they sneezed in your face or something, then you might want to go ahead and start taking your Echinacea and maybe boost up the elderberry a little bit, and you may not even get sick at all. Specific viruses that Echinacea has been studied and shown to be very effective against include herpes, cold and flu, and also Echinacea can reduce inflammation in the body. So again, same thing. If you're dealing with inflamed sinuses or yucky mucus in your lungs, Echinacea is great. All right, so number 10 is elder, and I actually don't have any. Isn't that weird? Like, elder is such a common herb, and we are sort of right before elderberry harvest season, so I have lots of frozen elderberries at home, but I don't have any actual dehydrated elderberries here, and my syrup is all gone. So I think I'm glad I'm doing this video, because I'm gonna go make some elderberry syrup when I get home and make sure that I have that ready and get those frozen berries into a dehydrator so that we have those too. But elder's wonderful. Elderberry especially stimulates the immune system. It's an immunostimulating herb, similar to Echinacea, but I think it's probably even a little more, I feel like it's gentler than Echinacea in terms of the immunostimulating capability. So one of the things I love about elder is that it suppresses the cold and flu virus replication. So that means that it actually goes to work and helps keep those viruses from reproducing and replicating. It's wonderful. It significantly reduces the symptoms caused by cold and flu, and it speeds the recovery of cold and flu. And I'm speaking from an experiential standpoint, as well as from a scientific study concluded standpoint. So elder's wonderful. I wish I had some here to show you, but they're little purple berries, and when they're dehydrated, they look black. So next time I talk about elder, I will have some for you. I did bring some elder down in the antibiotic video, so you can see them in that video too. Next up is Astragalus. This is not one that we're going to be growing very commonly here in the United States, although I'm sure some people do, but it's the root that you use. Astragalus is a Chinese herb, and here's a tincture of it. It kind of turns this beautiful golden color, kind of like hops. But Astragalus is wonderful because it does support the immune system, and it acts a little bit like elder in that it helps to boost the immune system. It is an adaptogen herb, which means it's very balancing. It tends to just keep you modulated and in balance. Astragalus has been clinically studied and shown to be really helpful with different viruses like HSV, hepatitis C, and the bird flu. So if you've got birds and they've got the bird flu, maybe try some Astragalus with them. But it's really wonderful for enhancing the immune system, and because it's an adaptogen, you can try and see how your body does, but taking it tonically every single day. I would not do that with, maybe elderberry a little bit in a small amount, but don't do that with Echinacea. I've heard people say, take Echinacea every day. Please don't do that. I actually talk about that in my elderberry Echinacea syrup video, and I specify that you should not be using Echinacea all the time and why. And so I was making that syrup specifically to use at the onset of a cold and flu and not as a tonic. So you can watch that video. We'll link to it above, but that's really a great recipe if you want to have that on hand in case you're feeling like you're getting sick. Really a great booster. One other thing I wanted to say about Astragalus is that it can, because it helps with the stress response, it can actually lower cortisol to an extent. And I believe that's been clinically studied as well. But cortisol is your stress hormone. And when you are stressed out and your body's pumping all that cortisol into you, and it's, your adrenal glands are going crazy and you're in that fight or flight response, guess what's happening to your immune system? It's decreasing its functionality. And so you don't want that. You want to be sure that you are always supporting that immune system and that you are keeping that cortisol under control in your body if you can. If you find that you're constantly stressed out, it's really important, if you want to stay well, to do some things that are going to calm and relax you. All right, next up is ginger. So this is Gingiber officinale, and we've got the root. This is cut and sifted root, and then we've also got the essential oil, and then you can obviously buy the ginger knobs in the store, get fresh ginger. You can grow it at home, but ginger is wonderful. It contains chemicals called zingerone and gingerol. Sometimes I get those mixed up. They're really, really helpful. Ginger is another one of those antiviral herbs that helps prevent the viruses from replicating. So if you are getting sick, or you've got the stomach flu, or you've got a cold and flu, ginger's wonderful. It's also warming and it's drying. It's really helpful if you've got like wet, boggy conditions and you're just not, yuck, you're just not feeling good, or if you're cold and you need to warm up. Ginger's great, and it's also good for the digestions. Another thing ginger's really good at is if you do have little viruses circulating through your system, the compounds actually can help prevent them from even coming near the cells in the first place, which is really great. It just prevents them from entering the host cell. Cold and flu. Ginger is really helpful against cold and flu. It's helpful against RSV, which is great. And it's also helpful against bird flu. So this would be another one to add with Astragalus. And there was another one I mentioned. If you have chickens and you have a coop, just, you can put a little tablespoon of tinctures or strong herbal teas in their water. That might be helpful for them. Ginger is also a really great anti-inflammatory as well. So let's talk about using these herbs. But before I do, I have a couple of honorable mentions here. So this is rose tincture. It's very beautiful. Look how beautiful and red it is. It's gorgeous. But rose petals are really wonderful to add in with any of these. First of all, they taste really good. They're gentle, but they're very astringent. Here's some beautiful petals that smell Amazing. Very sweet and wonderful. But roses can add a nice element to your preparations that you're making, including herbal teas or tinctures, whatever it is. Another honorable antiviral mention is licorice root. Licorice root is really not the best if you've got high blood pressure. It is really great for supporting your body against a number of different viruses. So you'll find licorice root in a lot of preparations. But you know, if you're going to the store and you're buying an herbal tea and you have high blood pressure and you see licorice root and it's on the upper end of the ingredients list, I probably wouldn't buy it. And it's unfortunate because people don't know to warn people about things like that. So just wanted to mention that. But let's talk herbal preparations now. So you can make if you want to do like more of a tonic, you could do like an herbal tea where you just steep the herb in some water for, warm water, just boiled water for, 5 to 15 or 20 minutes and just drink that as a tonic. If you want to. If you want to do a strong infusion that's medicinal, though, you're going to want to take about 2 to 3 tablespoons and put it in a quart of water, put the just boiled water over the top, and then allow that to steep for several hours or even overnight. And that's going to give you a wonderful, wonderful medicinal infusion to drink. You can just drink that through the next day, and it will last for 2 days. Herbal teas and water will last up to 48 hours as long as they're refrigerated. So that's good. Another herbal preparation is, of course, the tincture. Tinctures are wonderful. They have a super long shelf life. Like, they just never go bad. I have tinctures in my cupboard that are still good, that are nearly 10 years old now. So really, you can use them indefinitely. So I really love tinctures. There's very little waste, and once they're made, you're good. And you can combine tinctures with other things, like other tinctures, simples, or herbal teas. You can put some drops in an herbal tea. So I love tinctures for that. Another thing you can do is infuse your herbs in oil. And if you want to use some of these topically, like ginger is wonderful in infused oil topically, and so are a number of other of these herbs for just warming and soothing sore muscles. And that even includes the aches and pains that you get when you're sick with a fever or something like that. So infused oils are great. Another thing about herbal infused oils is you can actually use them as salad dressings or cook with them. And then finally, of course, we have our essential oils. So essential oils are fabulous. These little bottles of concentrated volatile oils are just amazing. And I love working with them in conjunction with the other herbal preparations too. That was a quick rundown of some really important herbal antivirals that you should consider looking into or learn how to work with a little bit more as we come up on cold and flu season. I just ran into a neighbor, and another friend of mine is getting over right now, and they're just not feeling good, and I'm like, boy, it's like mid-August. Is cold and flu season starting early this year? But to be honest, it's time to get started. I will also link to my fire cider video up here. Fire cider is a tonic that you should be taking a little bit of every single day, and it will also help keep you well during cold and flu season. And you can give it to your kids, especially if it's not high in the spicy herbs. Alrighty, so that's that. I'm Heidi Villegas with Healing Harvest Homestead. I hope you'll subscribe and like this video and share this with friends. Many of these herbs, as you can see, you can grow in your garden. Those that you can't grow in your garden are really easy to obtain these days. So I hope that you will consider adding some herbs to your life and enjoy much better health this cold and flu season as we go into winter. Again, I'm Heidi Villegas with Healing Harvest Homestead, and I'm signing off. Bye.